Punk Revolution now! Today we are going to be reviewing Slint's Spiderland. Wow, a freaking classic from 1991, groundbreaking, outstanding, amazing album. Just kind of in the mood to review a classic today. And what other classic to review than freaking one of my favorite albums of all time? This album is so inspirational and influential and amazing. Obviously, as you know, personally as a post-hardcore musician, big influence from Slint, of course. Especially, you could probably really easily hear that if you listen to my band Died's first EP. Very clear Slint influence there. Anyways, let's get the fucking review started. Excited to review this album, one of my favorites of all time. Let's start by taking a look at the album cover. So this album cover is kind of iconic in the world of underground music. Just look at it, that black and white photo so bold, the band members just kind of sitting there in their pool. Just kidding, it's a lake, I think. But regardless, they're so young. You can just look at these guys. It's amazing that kids this young managed to make one of the best albums of all time. They're younger than I am, and let's see, hopefully I can make an album that's a fraction as good at this. Okay, so you fuckers. What is going on? Well, actually, before I talk about the music, I want to talk about the context of the album because I think it's very interesting personally. So we're going to get in a little bit of the history of music and subgenre, so I hope that doesn't bore you too much. So, album came out in 1991. It kind of feels like this album was brought to Earth by aliens because I literally do not know any other fucking band that ever did anything even close to what is accomplished here. It's kind of hard to pin down the influences that went into making Spiderland because it is so groundbreaking and so like no other album you've ever freaking heard. So obviously, influence from punk, 80s punk and 80s post-hardcore, especially, you know, Steve Albini and his project Big Black, I'm sure went into influencing it. Steve Albini actually produced Slint's first album, Tweez, so for sure there's a connection there. I know that the band members of Slint were involved in the Louisville, Kentucky punk scene. Some members of Slint were in the band Squirrel Bait, so another connection there. So obviously this is a band coming from a world of punk rock. They're in the punk scene, they make punk, they listen to punk. Their influence has to be from punk because I have no clue where else they could be fucking influenced from because this music is just so otherworldly. It's just so out of fucking, doesn't make sense. But they take this kind of punk, you know, punk is really just confrontational, aggressive, just in your face a lot of the time. But I do feel like in post-hardcore and noise rock, there is kind of like an intellectual side of it buried within the aggressiveness. Slint takes that formula and flips it. Spiderland is an intellectual, cerebral, just thought-provoking album on the outside, and then on the inside is where the punk attitude is. The punk is there. It's the heart of the album, but this is a really just intellectual. It's just punk musicians trying to make as brain as an album as possible. So that's a pretty darn cool formula. And what comes out of it is a post-hardcore / post-rock / math rock album. Nothing had ever existed like that before 1991. Post-rock pretty much didn't exist at all in the 80s. Of course, there's Talk's album Spirit of Eden, which is arguably one of the first, if not the first, post-rock album. But that is kind of like taking post-rock with a jazz influence. Slint is coming from a completely different direction. Slint is making post-rock with a punk influence. Just completely different things coming together to make ultimately music that really, you know, has heavy on crescendos, longer song structures, more epic, you know. So coming together to create this pretty similar emotional and musical impact from two completely different worlds. And before that, really not, it's hard to, I mean, you can maybe argue that Glenn Branca's Ascension is post-rock, if you stretch the definition of post-rock, or maybe Miles Davis's albums in a silent way, if you really want to argue and stretch the definition of post-rock. But really, Slint's album here, one of the first post-rock albums, pretty fucking epic. Not only is it one of the first post-rock albums, it's the first album to bring together post-hardcore and post-rock, which nowadays goes together like peanut butter and jelly. It seems like every fucking post-hardcore band nowadays is influenced from freaking post-rock. I mean, I just reviewed Envy's album like last week or something, a classic. There's a perfect example. It's half post-hardcore, half post-rock. It's just like peanut butter and jelly. Post-hardcore, post-rock go together like peanut butter and jelly. Slint was the first one to do it, and they were the fucking best to do it. Let's be frank. They're the best to do it. And they also have this math rock element to it, which is they're going to be using some interesting time signatures. They might be using 7/4, 5/4, sometimes 4/4. So the time signatures, not anything too crazy. It's not like they're playing 17/3 or something crazy like that. No, the math here, I think what makes this album really a math rock album, not just the occasional uncommon time signatures, is the way how everything fits together like a complex math problem. You got these guitar riffs that are just so bizarre. Boom, dun, da, da na 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 na, boom, dun, da, ba na na mo na na, boom, dun, da. It's just like a jarring, really strange guitar riffs with harmonics and just palm muting and just like all sorts of like bizarre things going on in a really angular riff, uncommon time signature, but somehow fits together seamlessly within the entire compositions of the songs. The compositions that these songs come together in are masterpieces. They flow together perfectly. Every single section of the song connects perfectly with the previous section and the section that comes next. Perfect tension that builds up in each section, and then there's the climax in the chorus, which is the release. It is masterful the way it comes together, using these really strange riffs. And the bass here, every single note that the bass plays next to, on top of the strange guitar riffs, is as impactful as possible. Every note, not a note is wasted in this album. Every note the bass plays, sometimes it makes the chord beautiful, sometimes it makes it dissonant and strange and awkward. Every single time, every note the bass hits is just like, whoa, what the fuck? And the rhythm of the guitar and bass, perfectly in the pocket, in the fucking just nails where it needs to be with the drums. Okay, this is a band that uses a lot of strange time signatures and bizarre rhythms. So of course the drums are going to be the heart of the band, the heart of the album. And it makes a really fucking sick, rhythmic, hypnotic, what am I listening to? I've never heard any, the strange riffs being repeated over and over again. It's like I'm being hypnotized, but it's also pretty fucking like emotional, and just like when the climaxes of the song hits, it's like I'm on a fucking roller coaster. It's like these massive riffs that are strange, but just fucking blowing your mind. Brilliant stuff. Amazingly composed songs. Fantastic stuff. And then there's the vocals. So Slint is interesting because for a lot of bands, the vocals are like the number one thing. They're the priority. A lot of people only listen to the vocals when they listen to music. They don't give a shit about anything else. If I'm being frank, that's how a lot of people listen to music too. I actually showed Spiderland to someone who really didn't listen to any indie music at all, and they thought it was the strangest album they've ever heard. Pretty interesting, I guess. But anyways, the vocals here are taking a little bit of a back seat so we can really focus on the instrumentations. Honestly, this album could be an instrumental album and it'd still be stellar, but the vocals certainly do add a whole new element here. Spoken word vocal delivery, really interesting. Another really unique alien aspect of this album that comes in together with some really captivating poetry, lyrics about being isolated and anxiety and just like observing the world around you from a really like isolated perspective. It's really fascinating lyrics, kind of dark, kind of creepy, adds a lot of intensity to the atmosphere. And then of course, in between the spoken words are within it, going along perfectly with the post-rock structures of the songs, are the yelling and the screaming, the intense vocal deliveries, and of course the ending of the album, I Miss You. Mind fuck. Every single thing in this album comes together perfectly. Songwriting, the compositions are freaking masterful, masterpieces. It's hard to think of songs that are as well composed as these. The tones of the guitars and the bass and the drums, production, perfect production. It just sounds fantastic, okay? The performance that they give with the tempos and the intonation of their playing is fantastic, amazing performance. Vocal delivery, lyrics, all of it is just fucking a mind fuck. And the innovation, never fucking been done before, has had a massive impact on punk and post-hardcore. Tons of bands, huge influence from Slint. Some bands that love Slint so much, they just kind of fucking want to play Slint, which I don't blame them because they made a fucking masterpiece here. This is a 10 out of 10, folks, without a doubt. This is an easy 10 out of 10. Insane album. Mind fucks me every single day. Hard to wrap your head around. Might be kind of weird to listen to the first time because it sounds like nothing else that ever existed. But if you give it a few more listens and really just listen and think about, wow, this is so out of this goddamn world, it could change your life. This album is fucking potentially could change your life. 10 out of 10. Slint, Spiderland, a masterpiece. Thanks so much for watching Punk Revolution now!